The day German engineers realized America was untouchable. Let's set the scene real quick. Late 1940s, early Cold War vibes. Germany is still licking its wounds after World War II. Cities half rebuilt. Factories trying to come back online. Engineers going back to work. These guys weren't random dudes. German engineers had a reputation, man. Precision, discipline, next-level mechanics. Back in the day, made in Germany actually meant something serious. If it came from Germany, people assumed it was built like a tank. So these engineers, scientists, analysts, they thought they were still in the game. Maybe not on top anymore, but still competitive. Then boom, America starts flexing. Not loud flexing, but that quiet, scary kind. New aircraft designs, early computers, radar systems that made German tech look, well, kinda dated. At first, Germans were like, okay, cool, Americans got money. No big deal, right? But then reports started coming in. Technical documents, intelligence briefings, blueprints, numbers, real data. And that's when the mood changed. No jokes, no smiles, just silence. One engineer supposedly said something like, "They're not just ahead, they're in a different league." That hit hard. Because this wasn't propaganda, this wasn't newspaper hype. This was cold, technical reality. Power output, processing speed, range, accuracy. The Americans weren't playing catch-up anymore. They were setting the pace. And the wild part, the U.S. didn't even look stressed. While Europe was rebuilding brick by brick, America was out here experimenting, failing forward, burning cash on projects that might not work, but when they did, game over. That kind of freedom scared everyone. German analysts started to realize this wasn't just about weapons, it was about systems, infrastructure, research culture, universities pumping out engineers, private companies working hand in hand with the military. It was a whole ecosystem. That's when the thought hit them, we can't copy this. You can steal designs, sure, but you can't steal mindset. You can't steal decades of investment. That's the part that messed with them. Now, let's talk about the emotional side. Because yeah, even engineers got feelings. Pride took a hit. These were guys who grew up believing German tech was elite. Their dads built machines. Their grandfathers built engines. Craftsmanship ran in their blood. And now, they're reading American reports thinking, damn, they really did that. New jet engines outperforming everything Europe had. Electronics so advanced, they barely understood how the Americans mass-produced them. Early computing machines filling rooms, but doing calculations that used to take humans weeks. Weeks, man. One German scientist reportedly joked, they don't build machines, they build monsters. Half joke, half fear. And here's the kicker, Americans weren't even hiding it. They'd publish research, show off prototypes, run public tests. It was like, yeah, we did this. What about it? That psychological impact was brutal. Because if your enemy hides tech, you assume it's weaker. But when they show it, that means they've got something even better in the lab. That's Cold War logic. German experts started using words like overwhelming, unmatched, uncatchable. Those are not casual words. That's professional panic. They realized America had cracked something deeper. Not just smarter machines, but faster development cycles. Build, test, upgrade, repeat. No waiting 10 years. No endless bureaucracy. Just move. And for Germans who love process, structure, planning, that speed was terrifying. You can't outplan someone who outmoves you. So behind closed doors, some admitted it, we're behind, and catching up might be impossible. That's the moment. That's when respect turned into shock, and shock turned into quiet fear. Because when engineers get scared, you know it's real. When Germany started studying American tech like a puzzle. So after that first shock, the Germans didn't just sit around sulking. Nah, they did what Germans do best. Analyze everything. Break it down, piece by piece, screw by screw. They started collecting anything American they could get their hands on. Radios, aircraft parts, manuals, circuit boards, even broken stuff. Especially broken stuff. because that's where you see how it's really built. Workshops turned into quiet labs. Engineers leaned over tables, magnifying glasses out, coffee getting cold. You could hear a pin drop. No music, no small talk, just scribbling notes and low whispers like, "Look at this wiring. Why would they do it this way? That's actually smart." And that's when it got uncomfortable, because they weren't just impressed. They were confused. American designs looked messy, not the clean, elegant German style. Wires everywhere, components stacked weird, but it worked. And not just worked, it worked insanely well. One technician joked, "They build like cowboys." But the laughter was nervous, because those cowboys were winning. The Americans didn't care about beauty, they cared about function, speed, results. If duct tape worked, they used duct tape. If a part was ugly but reliable, they kept it. No pride, no ego, just efficiency. That mindset was foreign to German engineers. Over there, design was sacred. Every line had to make sense. Every screw had to be perfect. But the Americans? They just wanted it to work right now. And here's where it really hit them: American factories. Massive, automated, running 24/7. While Europe struggled with shortages, the US was pumping out machines like a cheat code. Parts interchangeable, production lines smooth like butter. German analysts started realizing, this isn't engineering, this is industrial warfare. You don't beat that with talent alone, you beat that with scale, money, logistics. And the US had all three locked down. Then came the intelligence reports. That's when things got spicy. Documents leaked about secret American projects, high-altitude planes, early satellites, surveillance systems that could see way deeper than anyone expected. German experts sat there reading this stuff like it was science fiction. One analyst supposedly said, "If half of this is true, we're in trouble." Turns out, most of it was true. The scariest part wasn't the tech itself, it was the strategy behind it. The Americans weren't just building weapons, they were building eyes, ways to watch, track, predict. Germany had lived through being watched before. Stasi, secret police, informants. So the idea of a country being able to spy from the sky? That hit different. Chilling. Some engineers started connecting dots. Satellites plus computers, radar, plus early AI data, plus military planning. They saw where this was going. Total information dominance. And that's when the mood shifted from wow to oh. Because once a nation controls information, it controls the game. German officials kept calm in public. Smiles, press statements. We are cooperating with allies. Behind closed doors, whole different story. They knew America wasn't just ahead. America was rewriting warfare. And here's the wild thing: the US wasn't even at full speed yet. Vietnam hadn't happened. Space race was just warming up. Computers were still dinosaurs. And yet, they were already scary. One old engineer later said in an interview, "That's when I understood. The war never really ended. It just moved into machines. Deep stuff." And yeah, that realization messed with them. By the early 1950s, German engineers weren't just reading reports anymore. They were seeing American tech up close. Joint NATO exercises, airshows, military briefings. And man, that's when jaws really dropped. Let's talk about aircraft first. The US rolled in with jets that looked like they came from the future. Faster, higher altitude, longer range. While Europe was still perfecting designs from World War II, America was already moving past them. German pilots who got a chance to observe these jets up close noticed small details that said a lot. Cockpits packed with instruments, early autopilot systems, navigation tech that reduced human error. These weren't just planes, they were flying computers. One pilot reportedly said, "This thing feels alive." Not because it was pretty, because it responded. And then there was maintenance. Americans designed aircraft so parts could be swapped fast. No custom fitting, no endless adjustments. Pull it out, plug it in, done. German mechanics were used to precision fitting, handcrafted parts. So seeing Americans replace components like Lego pieces, that messed with their heads. It meant faster repairs, less downtime, more planes in the air. In war terms, that's dominance. Then came electronics. Radar systems so sensitive, they could track objects way beyond visual range. German experts stared at the screens like, wait, you can see that far? During exercises, American radar picked up targets before German systems even noticed movement. That wasn't just embarrassing, it was scary. Because in modern warfare, whoever sees first, shoots first. But the real shocker? Computers. Back then, computers were massive, room-sized monsters with blinking lights. But they were already doing something insane. Predicting outcomes, simulating battles, crunching numbers at speed humans couldn't touch. German analysts watched demonstrations where American machines calculated missile trajectories in seconds. Stuff that used to take teams of people hours. One German mathematician reportedly whispered, "This changes everything." And he wasn't wrong, because once you automate thinking, the battlefield shifts. The Americans were feeding data into machines, weather, fuel consumption, and enemy movement, then letting the computer spit out strategies. It wasn't perfect, but it was fast, and speed wins wars. Germany had smart people, brilliant minds, but they didn't have this level of funding, or political backing, or industrial muscle. And here's the kicker: American companies were involved. IBM, Lockheed, Boeing, private firms pushing tech forward for profit. That blew German minds. In Europe, military tech was state-driven. In the US, capitalism joined the war, meaning more money, faster innovation, less red tape. One analyst wrote in his notes, "They innovate like it's a business." Because it was. That's when the penny dropped. America wasn't just ahead today. They were building a system that stays ahead forever. And for Germans watching from the sidelines, that realization hit hard. When German experts saw the American military machine up close, by the mid-1950s, Germany wasn't just reading about American power anymore. They were seeing it live. NATO bases, joint drills, shared intelligence meetings. And honestly, that's when it really sank in. Papers are one thing. Reality hits different. German officers walked through American bases and couldn't believe the scale. Hangars bigger than football fields. Rows and rows of aircraft, perfectly lined up. Fuel trucks rolling non-stop. Mechanics working in shifts like a factory floor. No chaos, no confusion, just smooth operation. One German colonel reportedly muttered, "This looks like an assembly line for war." And he wasn't wrong. The U.S. military ran like a corporation. Everything had a system, a backup system, and a backup for the backup. If one radar station failed, another one already had the data. If a jet went down, 3 more were ready to go. German officers were used to efficiency, but this was next level. This wasn't discipline. This was logistics mastery. They noticed something else too. American soldiers were relaxed, not careless, just confident, joking around, drinking coffee, talking about baseball. Meanwhile, their machines were lethal. That combo? Terrifying. Because confident soldiers with superior tech? That's a dangerous mix. During exercises, American units moved faster. Their communications were cleaner. Orders traveled instantly. Radios clear. No static. No confusion. German commanders started to realize, we're not training the same war. America had moved on. Then came the command centers. Rooms full of screens. Maps updating in real time. Officers watching troop movements like it was a chessboard. German visitors stood quietly in the back, trying not to stare. This was new. Back in World War II, commanders waited for reports, messengers, delays. Now, data flowed instantly. One German strategist later admitted, "We would have lost World War II much faster if they had this back then." That's a heavy statement. The Americans were turning war into information. Numbers, coordinates, probabilities. You didn't need to guess. The system told you what was happening. And that's when German analysts felt something close to dread. Because you can fight a tank, you can shoot a plane, but how do you fight a system? You don't. That's when the quiet truth emerged in closed rooms. America wasn't just strong, they were organized. And organization beats raw skill every time. German engineers started warning their government, "We need massive investment. We're falling behind. This gap is growing." But money was tight. The country was rebuilding. Politics complicated everything. Meanwhile, America just kept accelerating. And the scariest part, they looked like they were just getting started. After seeing American bases and command centers, German scientists went into full grind mode. No excuses, no breaks. They knew if they didn't move fast, the gap would only grow. So universities, research labs, and private companies all started pushing harder. Long nights, endless tests, coffee on repeat, the whole 9 yards. But here's the problem: they weren't starting from zero. They were starting from behind. Every time they developed something new, an American version already existed. And it was better, faster processors, stronger materials, smarter systems. It felt like trying to chase a train that already left the station. One German physicist joked, "We invent the wheel, they invent the engine." Everyone laughed, but you could feel the frustration. They analyzed American patents, studied technical journals, attended conferences where U.S. engineers casually dropped breakthroughs like it was no big deal. Stuff Germans had been working on for years. That hurt. Because it wasn't arrogance. Americans weren't even flexing. They just moved on to the next problem. Always forward. And then came the budgets. That's when things got ugly. German labs fought for funding. Politicians debated every dollar. Committees, paperwork, delays. Meanwhile, across the ocean, the Pentagon was cutting blank checks. Billions. No questions asked. One researcher said, "They don't ask if it will work. They ask how fast it can be done." Different mindset. German teams would test something for months. Americans would test it, fail, rebuild, and test again in the same time. Speed beat perfection. And slowly, painfully, the realization spread: we can't outpace them. We can only react. The worst part? Space. When America started launching rockets, German experts paid close attention. They knew rockets. Hell, they helped invent them back in World War II. Von Braun, V2, all that history. So they thought, okay, this is our turf. Then NASA happened. Launch after launch. Bigger boosters, better guidance, telemetry systems that fed live data back to Earth. German engineers watched in disbelief. One said, "They turned our weapon into a ladder to the stars." That one stung, because America didn't just copy German tech, they evolved it. Fast. Satellites followed. Communication, reconnaissance, weather tracking. Suddenly, America could see the planet from above. Real time. No borders. No secrets. German analysts realized something scary. The battlefield is everywhere now. Not just land, not just air, space, too. And Germany? They didn't have the money or political power to compete at that level. Behind closed doors, officials admitted it. "We're observers now." That's a brutal thing to accept for a nation that once led engineering. But reality is reality. And America? They were playing a whole different game. When German officials finally admitted the gap was real, by the late 1950s, the conversation inside Germany started changing. Before, it was all quiet worries, private notes, closed-door meetings. Now, people were saying it out loud. Not in public, of course, but in government offices, research councils, and military briefings. The message was clear. America is way ahead. German defense planners sat around long tables, folders open, charts spread out. Every chart told the same story. American budgets skyrocketing. New programs popping up every year. Projects with names nobody outside the Pentagon even knew about. Meanwhile, Germany had to argue for every penny. One official reportedly said, "We're trying to sprint with weights on our ankles." And honestly, that summed it up. Germany was rebuilding. Schools, housing, infrastructure. Military tech had to compete with hospitals and highways. In the U.S., military tech was the priority. Cold War pressure, fear of the Soviets, political will, perfect storm. German analysts kept comparing timelines. How long did it take us to develop this? How long did it take them? The answers weren't even close. What took Germany 5 years? America did in 2, sometimes 1. That speed freaked people out. Because speed means surprise, and surprise wins conflicts. One German colonel said, "They don't wait to be perfect. They just move." That mindset difference kept coming up. Germans liked planning everything. Americans, good enough. Let's go. And the crazy part, it worked. That's what hurt the most. If American tech was sloppy and failed, Germans could relax. But it didn't fail. It dominated. Behind closed doors, they started asking uncomfortable questions. Are we falling into a permanent second place? Will we ever catch up? Should we even try? That last one was the toughest. Around this time, German media quietly picked up the vibe too. Articles about American innovation, space programs, new aircraft, computers, always America, America, America. The public didn't know the details, but they felt it. Wow, the Americans are really pushing it. Meanwhile, inside the system, officials knew it was more than pushing. It was domination. German universities started losing talent. Young engineers wanted to go to the U.S., better pay, bigger labs, cooler projects, brain drain. One professor said, "I train them, and then they leave." That hurt. Because it wasn't just about machines anymore. It was about people. America wasn't just winning the tech race. They were winning the talent race. German officials realized, we can't compete on scale. We can't compete on speed. We can only specialize. So they shifted strategy. Focus on niche tech, precision tools, specific industries. Play smart instead of big. But deep down, they knew the main race was already decided. One internal report summed it up brutally. The United States has created a system of permanent innovation. Competing directly is unrealistic. That's not propaganda. That's acceptance. And that's when the shock turned into something else. Not fear anymore. Respect. Quiet, uncomfortable respect. By the early 1960s, something interesting happened inside German research circles. They stopped talking about beating America. That dream quietly died. Instead, the new goal became, understand how they do it. That's a big shift. Before, it was pride, competition. Now, curiosity mixed with respect. German think tanks started sending delegations to the U.S., conferences, tech expos, university partnerships. You'd see these older engineers sitting in American lecture halls, notebooks out, nodding slowly like, okay, so that's how they think. And man, they noticed patterns. Americans weren't obsessed with perfection. They tested stuff in public, failed publicly, and nobody cared. Failures were part of the process. That blew German minds. In Germany, failure was shame. In America, failure was step one. One German engineer said, they fall 10 times, but the 11th time they're unstoppable. That stuck. They also noticed how the U.S. mixed military, business, and universities. Professors consulting for defense companies. Students getting hired straight into secret projects. Startups getting government contracts. The lines were blurry. In Europe, everything was separate. In America, it was all one machine, and that machine moved fast. German analysts started calling it the innovation loop. Money, research, product improvement, more money. Over and over. No waiting. No endless debate. Just action. And that's when Germans fully understood. You don't copy that. You become that. And they couldn't. Not culturally. Not politically. Another thing they noticed? Confidence. American engineers talked about the future like it was already here. Yeah, in years we'll have this. In 20, we'll probably be doing that. No hesitation. German engineers were more cautious. Maybe, possibly, if funding allows. Different energy. One German visitor to a U.S. lab said, they speak about tomorrow like it's already booked. That mindset was powerful. By this point, Germany stopped feeling embarrassed. They stopped being defensive. Instead, they got honest. Internal meetings sounded like, we should partner with them, let's learn from them. Competing directly is pointless. That's maturity. And here's the twist: Americans didn't act arrogant. They shared open research, joint projects, student exchanges. They weren't scared of losing secrets. That confidence came from being ahead. When you're winning, you don't hide. German experts quietly admitted, they don't just have better machines, they have a better system. And systems beat talent every time. The moment Germany realized it was already too late, by the late 70s, Germany finally faced a hard truth. They weren't catching up. Not even close. The gap wasn't shrinking anymore. It was locked in. American technology had moved into another league. Computers, satellites, advanced aircraft, early digital networks, stuff that sounded like sci-fi back then. German analysts stopped asking how do we compete and started asking how do we survive. That's a brutal mental shift. One internal report basically said, we are no longer leaders, we are specialists, meaning they'd focus on precision tools, engineering niches, high-quality manufacturing, not big global tech dominance. Smart move, honestly, because they realized something important. You don't beat America at scale, you beat them at detail. So Germany doubled down on precision machines, automotive engineering, industrial tools, medical tech. They became masters of their lane. While the U.S. was building the future, Germany was perfecting the present. And there's respect in that. But deep inside, they knew. They missed the moment. The post-war window closed. The Cold War tech race passed them by. The digital revolution started elsewhere. And once a wave passes, you don't catch it. You wait for the next one. Privately, German researchers admitted something uncomfortable. America didn't just win because of money. They won because of mindset, risk-taking, fast decisions, letting young people lead. In Germany, hierarchy was king. You waited your turn. Young engineers stayed quiet. In the U.S., a 25-year-old could run a project. That shook them. One German professor said, they let kids drive the future. And he wasn't wrong. By the 80s, Silicon Valley was exploding. Startups everywhere. People dropping out of college to build companies. That energy didn't exist in Europe. Germany was stable, safe. But safe doesn't change the world. Safe maintains it. So Germany adapted. They stopped chasing American dreams. They built their own identity. And you know what? It worked. Today, German engineering is still elite. Different lane, different game. But the lesson stayed. You don't always lose because you're weak. Sometimes you lose because someone else rewrites the rules. And America rewrote them. When everything settled, when the dust finally dropped, one uncomfortable truth remained. Germany didn't lose. They just played a different game. But that realization came late. By the time they truly understood the shift, America was already 10 steps ahead. Satellites in orbit, computers shrinking, digital networks connecting the world. The future had a U.S. accent. And Germany, they watched from the sidelines. Not powerless, not broken, just late. That's the part nobody likes to admit. Timing beats talent. Every single time. You can be brilliant, but if you show up after the wave hits, you're just swimming in leftovers. And Germany learned that the hard way. They had the brains, they had the discipline, they had the engineers, but they missed the moment. And moments don't wait. One retired German strategist said, we prepared for the last war, while they built the next one. That line hits. Because it applies to everything. Business, tech, life. If you're always reacting, you're already behind. So what's the real takeaway? Not that America is unbeatable. Not that Germany failed. The real lesson is this. The world doesn't reward perfection. It rewards bold moves. Germany aimed for flawless systems. America aimed for speed. Germany wanted certainty. America gambled. And yeah, gambling is risky. But sometimes risk changes history. Think about it. Most world-changing ideas look stupid at first. Satellites? Why would we need that? Personal computers? Who's gonna use that? Internet? Just a nerd thing. Yet here we are. Germany waited for proof. America created it. That's the difference. So if you're watching this, Here's the low-key message. Don't wait too long. Don't overthink. Don't play safe forever. Because while you're planning, someone else is building. And by the time you move, the game already changed. That's not history. That's life.